So, can you increase your cognitive ability through training your body? Yes, you can. Okay. So, essentially, I got a question in my comments rather recently about can you or how you can increase your brain performance through physical activity, right? And essentially, working out has been shown to increase blood flow throughout the body, right? Specifically, cardiovascular training, right? Specifically, though, it increases blood flow to the brain. And what does your brain need? Just like all other muscles, it needs nutrients, right? Oxygen and other nutrients. So, increasing blood flow inherently increases brain performance, which to a degree can make you smarter, right? And essentially, right, there's this thing called neuroplasticity, right, which is the brain's ability to grow and change shape over time. Now, if we look at one of the definitions of fluid intelligence, it's the ability to learn new things and adapt to new situations, right? So, neuroplasticity is linked almost one-to-one with intelligence, essentially, right? Fluid intelligence, that is. And if we look at another type of intelligence, not fluid, but crystallized intelligence, right? If we look at crystallized intelligence, one definition of that is just knowledge, right? But if you create a certain change in your brain that makes it easier to create new memories or gain more knowledge, right? Or just by increasing fluid intelligence, right? A lot of people who have high fluid intelligence also have decent crystallized intelligence, because if it's easy for you to learn stuff, you rack up new knowledge really fast most of the time, assuming you have interests, right? Which is common. So if you have high fluid intelligence via neuroplasticity, it's easier to gain a higher crystallized intelligence, right? And how do we increase that, right? How do we increase neuroplasticity, right? Well, the funny thing is, learning new things actually increase neuroplasticity, right? So neuroplasticity helps you learn new things, and learning new things helps you to increase neuroplasticity, right? This is why the term "you can't teach an old dog new tricks" exists, right? Because when you stop learning stuff as you get older, you think you're older than everyone and you know everything, right? Or at least you know enough. Then you stop needing or wanting to learn new stuff. So you just don't have the capacity to learn stuff anymore because you just stop learning. You don't want to learn anything, you view it as non-necessary. So it doesn't make it impossible, but it doesn't make it harder for you to learn new things, right? Not impossible by no means, but it makes it harder. But once you start learning stuff again, it becomes easier to learn even more stuff, right? So that's important to keep in mind. Well, now you might be thinking, well, why does that matter? Why'd you bring up learning new stuff, right? I'm not going to learn rocket science while training to get bigger or something, right? And that's true to a degree, but you're still learning, right? When you train physically, when you first start lifting weights, you have to learn the form, right? And when you learn martial arts, you still have to learn certain things, right? Now, to be fair, when it comes to martial arts and heck, even other exercises, there's room for creativity and such, but at the very least, you need to learn the rules so you can break the rules, right? You need to learn what to do, what the general advice is. And even if the general advice isn't perfect or isn't good or whatever, that doesn't matter. You need to learn it to figure out why it's good, why it's not, and make adjustments, even like normal training, right? Even if you have some sort of injury where you can't do a proper push-up or squat or something, you need to know what a proper push-up looks like so that you can adjust that proper push-up in a way where you won't interfere with your injury, but you still will get the benefits of a push-up, for example, right? Maybe it hurts when you do push-ups at shoulder width apart, with your hands shoulder width apart. Maybe you need to go wider than that. Maybe you need to go narrower. Who knows, right? So you need to learn what is standard and what is proper so that you can make adjustments from there. You can't make adjustments to something you don't know about, right? So it is important to learn the techniques, right? And you might be thinking, oh, well, after I learn the technique, well, that's just it. I just learned one move. But here's the thing. If you work out with, let's say, weights, right? And you want a balanced physique or whatever, you don't want any weird overuse injuries or muscular imbalances, you don't need just learn one movement, right? You learn multiple movements, right? And usually if you learn 5 movements at once, right, say squat, bench press, deadlift, overhead press, and let's see, weighted push-up, if you learn those things all at the same time, or not weighted push-up, but push-up in general, right? So you learn those movements. Those are all different movements. Even though, say, push-up and bench press are similar, they're still slightly different, right? And some different things you need to learn. So you're going to learn all those things, and usually you're not going to master them all at the same time, right? So you need time to master all of the movements, right? And you practice all more and more until you get better and better form, etc., etc. And then eventually maybe change up your technique, maybe implement some other exercises, stuff like that, right? Or martial arts is even more in this instance, right? So you learn the basics first, right? Jab, cross, hook. If it's just boxing, or if it's anything else, pretty much. Any other striking style: jab, cross, hook, uppercut, round kick, front kick, side kick, maybe, right? And then eventually you get good at those, and then not only are you still perfecting that, but you're also introducing new moves, right? Maybe knees and elbows if you're learning Muay Thai, right? Maybe spinning wheel kicks, or spinning crescent kicks, or tornado kicks, right? If you're Taekwondo or karate, right? Maybe if you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you learn the basic, guard positions, and maybe one submission or something. Well, now you learn the other 10,000 submissions of jiu-jitsu, right? Or you learn escapes and stuff, so you master what you already know, and then you add more, right? So you're always learning new stuff, whether it's, just weightlifting, or maybe it's, heck, even something as small as, like, walking, right? Maybe you start off with walking, and then you want to try jogging, and then you want to try sprinting, right? Even just the form in doing all those. If you're walking normally, you sound fairly upright, versus sprinting, you might want to lean forward slightly, right? And just learning the different stuff, the different movement patterns, how your body moves. If you're learning martial arts, right, you're learning, well, can I punch this guy? How far away can I punch this guy, right? How long is my arm in comparison, right? And you learn different stuff like that, and you become more acquainted like that. And with weightlifting, it's like, okay, well, how heavy can I go before I reach failure, right? How many reps do I have at this weight before reaching failure, right? How much weight, especially if you're training alone, can I use without crushing myself to death, right? Which I would not recommend crushing yourself to death. So, yeah, these are all things that you'd have to keep in mind in training, different things, right? And so if you're training anything physically, you're using your brain, and just the process of using your brain requires you to improve it, right? Every time you use your brain, you're improving. Your brain is always changing at all time. It's either getting better or getting worse. You're either learning new stuff and getting smarter and more intelligent, or you're not learning stuff and you're literally becoming dumber, right? So if you're watching this video right now, good job. You're making yourself smarter, right? But if you're, just sitting in your mother's basement for 20 years or something, not learning anything new, you're getting quite literally dumber by the second. The less you learn stuff, the less intelligent you become, essentially, right? So that's all important stuff to keep in mind. That's why you see some old people that seem super mentally sharp, and at least mentally it's no different than if they're, say, in their 30s and they're actually in their 80s or something, right? Except for they're smarter. They're literally just really smart, just really smart old people. Versus some old people are 80 and they don't remember the names of their kids, right? And they just don't really know anything anymore, right? They remember a few things. Maybe they know just enough to, not die, and that's about it, right? And that's the difference. The old people that are smart are the old people that continued to learn, right? The old people that, end up declining, usually, not all the time, but usually are the ones who stopped using their brains, right? As well as their body, but as, half, like 90% of this video is dedicated to, they're both kind of the same thing, right? And I'll probably end up making a separate video on why training the mind also trains the body, but I do also want to mention the fact that the old people that are physically in shape are also usually mentally in shape. Like, you can find old people that are mentally in shape that are not physically in shape, but it's really hard to find an old person that's physically in shape that's not also mentally in shape, right? You just don't see that. It almost doesn't exist. Like, I haven't seen a single example. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but to my knowledge, it doesn't. Usually when
they stop being active physically, they also, will decline. But if they stay active physically, they won't decline at least as fast in the physical department as well as in the intellectual department as well.
If you want me to make a follow-up video on why increasing your mental capacity also increases your physical capacity, leave me a comment in the description down below. And if you're interested in getting the most out of your training, click the link on screen now.